But I had been working with longing to belong, discovering the joy of acceptance, because I know that people talk about self-confidence. It's not about confidence because confidence is performance-based, right? People talk about fitting in, but fitting in isn't belonging. It's actually masking maybe who you really are. So you'll be accepted in places where maybe you really wouldn't be. And so I wanted this sense of belonging. It is a longing that we have.
Welcome to Lead Like a Girl, where we are empowering everyday women through our stories. I'm your host, Jessica Smith, and I began this journey by sharing my life story. Now, I've joined forces with my longtime friends, Jamie and Corlin, to keep this party going. We met many years ago as young sales girls in our 20s, driven and quickly rising to the top of our industry. As the years went on, life happened, and we all found ourselves in new companies and completely different industries, still striving for success in it all. Career, family, faith, fun. Now, it wasn't easy, but we never stopped moving. Get ready for our real conversations, inspiring stories, and our big life lessons as we share it all. The good, the bad, and the funny. Welcome to Lead Like a Girl.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Lead Like a Girl. I am your host today, Corlin. I'm here, as always, with my two best friends, Jessica and Jamie here. And again, we are the podcast where we are empowering everyday women through our stories, all the good, the bad, and the funny. Today's conversation is going to be a very, very good conversation. I've been reading up on this, and we have another guest today. If you're watching us, you see there's a fourth voice in the room. I'm going to introduce Shawna here in a minute, but we're going to really jump into it. The core of what we're talking about is we're going to talk about when we feel discouraged, how we feel when we belong or don't belong, and the power of speaking truth over our own life. Does that sound like a big conversation, ladies?
That's amazing.
Very timely. I love it.
Very timely. I think that idea of speaking truth over our lives is something we could never get enough of and should never stop doing, because I feel like there's a lot fighting against that in our life. And so the more that we can be advocates for ourselves internally, the better. We're not going to get too far into that. I'm going to let Shawna spread in that. But Shawna, I want to give you a little bit of an introduction first, and then we'll kind of hop right into it. So, Shawna, you are a nationally recognized speaker, author, and you host your own podcast called the Believe and Speak podcast, which is awesome. And you are empowering people who always put others first to rise above exhaustion, renew their strength, and step boldly into a life of freedom and fulfillment. Being a podcaster, you're an international speaker and a published author. You've also published your own book, and we're going to talk through that a little bit here today, called Longing to Belong, Discovering the Joy of Acceptance. That all sounds like things we want to dive into today. Before we get it started, though, I always like to start off with a little bit of an icebreaker. Shawna, we all learned that you are a master. You are a professional writer of commercials, like actual 30-second spots. What a unique and special talent that is. Can you tell us, first of all, just a little bit about that? And then can you tell us your own insight on how we can write our best own 30-second spot?
Oh my goodness. Well, when I graduated from college, I did not pursue my degree at all. I changed my mind. I actually got a job as a nightclub singer. I sang 6 nights a week in a bar, my first job out of college after my parents paid for a very expensive private education.
Well, I know my first question for you. Job. Sorry.
Okay. We're just getting right into it.
So I actually started doing advertising for my dad's furniture store. And so I wrote the commercials, I placed them. And you had said, if I were to hype myself up in 30 seconds, what might I say? So that's what we were talking a little off camera before we started. And so I might say something like 3, 2, 1. Shawna, you have the power to influence people. With your energy and enthusiasm, you can literally shift the atmosphere with your presence. So girl, put a smile on your face and focus on the precious women listening to this podcast, whether they're in their car or on a treadmill or sitting on their couch. Picture them right now and let them know that Jessica and Jamie and Corlin care so much about you. And that's why they put this show together today. So I'm here to encourage you and to let you know you found a place where you belong.
Amen.
Yay! You be our fourth.
I feel like I need Shawna in my bathroom mirror every morning to be my own personal hype lady.
Yeah, my gosh.
I love that. Do you know, like, I feel that is a gifting that people have. Like, I have a couple of friends of mine that anytime that I have the girl conversation, like I need to vent or say something, I just like, I call them up and they just have this power to speak truth and light and victory over whatever it is. You two are two of those people, but I can also think of a couple other people, or that are like just solid prayer warriors, that they just pray with like the boldness of like you're standing in front of Jesus, kind of like. It's just great. Love it, love it, love it. That's awesome. Jamie, Jessica, do you have a 30-second hype? Do you want to give your own?
So we talked about this a minute ago. I don't. This has been a catalyst for me to think about a 30-second hype. I have one. I've got my introduction to myself in terms of work, but in like a social setting, I don't think I have anything. Like, I tend to fall back on asking questions about the other person. I think I need to hone in on that skill. I need to like practice something and figure something out. It was funny though, when you talked about just the truth. I think something I fall back on a lot, and maybe maybe you guys can relate a little bit, but I have a habit of sort of complaining with my friends. I don't want to say it that way, but when you share the memes of like real life with your friends, where you're like, oh my gosh, I ate so much cheese today. Or
I don't know if I've ever gotten that. I don't know if I've ever gotten the cheese meme from you.
But when you're just kind of like, you're sharing kind of real life stuff with your friends, where it's like, we're in this together and that kind of sucks, but it's the truth. We want to be positive and we want to be just these amazing women. And I think I feel blessed that I'm surrounded by amazing women, but also there's the truth to that. And there's the very, very realness to that, where you can say to your friends, wow, I drenched my sheets last night with a night sweat. So I don't know. That's
all of that.
You are reminding me of, oh my gosh, you're reminding me of a study that I heard. I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but the older that you get, no, this is so true. The older that you get, there's actually now documented proof that the hair growth on your legs slows down. Have you noticed that? You don't have to shave your legs as often. Well, I know, because it gives you more time to deal with your newly acquired mustache. There's that.
Why is that true? And I'm so sad.
Best thing I've heard this entire day. That's so great. Oh my gosh. We're definitely awesome. Making that into a meme
right.
Today.
On that note, Jessica, you don't get a share.
I'm okay with that.
Well, I am this. If that tells anything about our conversation that we're going to have over the next 30 minutes, that should tell you one thing. But Shawna, okay, so before we get started, so like I mentioned in your intro, you're a podcaster, you're a world traveled speaker, you're an author. Walk us through a little bit of your origin story. So you started off, you were a nightclub singer.
Yes.
What happened between then and now to grow out your expertise and your wisdom in this space?
Well, it's funny that, like I said, when I went to college, I wanted to be a broadcast journalist. That excited me because I love to write and I'm comfortable in front of a camera. I thought, this is it. This is my calling. But then I did an internship at a news station and I hated it. I like what you girls have. I like the camaraderie. I like I lift you up, you lift me up. Let's lift each other up. And that environment was very backstabby, at least in my experience. And I said, I can't work like this, looking for something bad to happen so you can report it with glee. I think that was about the time too that song, Glenn Fry's song about dirty laundry came out. And I'm like, okay, I'm done. And so that's why I became a nightclub singer, because I knew I could sing. And my voice coach had told me in my senior year of college, you could make money with your voice, either as a teacher or as a professional. It crossed my mind until then. And so I remember when I auditioned, I'm a woman of faith. You mentioned prayer, and I had prayed and I said, Lord, you know what? I'm desperate for a job. It's like, it's real, true now. I'm not being supported by mom and dad anymore. And I have no idea what I'm going to do. So if I'm offered this job, I'm going to take it. But if you don't want me in a bar 6 nights a week, then you got to close the door. But if you want me to continue sharing my gift and communicating and getting up in front of people, I need to know I'm good at it. So he was so good, because when I auditioned, they told me, you know what, we have auditioned 38 young women for this role. And so far, you are by far the best. Absolutely. We would hire you right now, but we have one more audition at 1 o'clock this afternoon. So if she's better than you, we're going to hire her. But if not, we're going to hire you. So I know. So I left going, okay, I got my answer. I got my answer. No, I got a call at about 1:15 saying, you got the job. And so I used that time to just really polish my craft and sing, obviously sing my heart out, and get all that out of my system before I got a real job.
So tell us about it. What shaped your communication path in terms of writing, speaking, podcasting, but even more specifically, the route that you've taken in terms of like empowering and speaking truth over people's lives. How did you make the jump from there to now?
Well, my dad was a preacher and my mom was a licensed clinical social worker. So I was blessed to grow up in a very healthy and functional home. And they understood that communication engages both the heart and the mind. And so I learned, watching my dad preach every Sunday, and then hearing the table talk at dinner with my mom being oh so very discreet about some of the things that she was dealing with at work, how important good communication is, and that it does. It has to engage both the heart and the mind in order to be successful and to get through.
Wow.
So when you met, I know I read a little bit about your bio and your husband, and you have a company together. So was that part of how you met, or was that something where you started your relationship and just kind of it flowed from there? Or how did this?
Yeah, I know. It's a movie script, right? So we met in the band. Our drummer, when I was hired into the band, actually left the band at the same time as the singer. And it's hilarious. They left to get married. And so when I was the only female in the band, I was told, you will not date anybody in the band. When they hired my husband, we were very clandestine. We didn't let anybody know that we were dating. And then we both ended up quitting the band at the same time to go get married. Something about the lead singer and the drummer behind her. I don't know what it is, but so he was artistic, obviously, musicians usually are, and he had a real eye for photography and graphics and that kind of thing. And with what I had gotten into, I mentioned earlier, was advertising. I helped my dad put his furniture store advertisements together. I mentioned he was a pastor, kind of like Paul, made tents, preached. My dad sold furniture, preached. And so when the man who did my dad's commercials had his main photographer walk out on him, my dad said, well, hey, my son-in-law might be able to do that for you. And so in a weekend, he learned how to white balance a camera, focus a camera, and then he went out and shot this whole entire, of all things, a Christmas campaign for a bunch of downtown merchants. And then he was in. And then we eventually left that. He left that company and joined mine. And like I said, we've been making music together ever since.
And I'm just curious. So in terms of digital media, tell us a little bit about that business, or what did you guys do for that?
That, again, we've been at it for a while, and technology has changed so much. We started out doing TV and radio commercials, and then we moved more into doing videos for like trade shows where people would set up their video and it would play. And then all that, of course, went online. And so we design. My husband's not a techie guy. He's not an IT guy, but we do the design of the website. So we make them very user-friendly, pretty. You mentioned that you visited my website. We just actually launched that. And so let's see. So digital, any materials that a company would use to present themselves. So it's not actually doing the marketing or doing the sales, but it's putting all the tools in their tool belt so that they can do it.
Hmm. Is there a certain type of company, or is it from A to Z?
What most of our business has been, we've done a lot of healthcare, it's the big businesses that spend a lot of money mainly. There's a beef company that also owns a resort, and we did all their marketing for years. So primarily healthcare, a little bit of education, and some manufacturing. Of course, I'm in Central California, and we are the produce center of the world. I mean, raisins, we've worked with raisin companies and almond packers and lots of fruits and vegetables.
Nice.
So you are the host of your own podcast, the Believe and Speak podcast. What was your motivation to start that? What is the message that you try to get across with that? What do you share in your podcast that's remarkable?
You kind of set the stage when you talked right off the top about how there's just such a need for people to feel like they belong and that they're speaking truth or hearing truth or knowing truth. I mean, the very first words, when you open my book and you read the first page, it says, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but I don't believe the rest of that sing song." Words have so much power. They have power to heal and they have power to destroy. And so often people say things without even thinking about what they're saying. And there's so much power in it. And so I wanted people to be very intentional, to start thinking about what they're thinking about, because usually, what's in here ends up out here. And then make sure that it's true. And that's harder and harder to do these days. But there is a source of truth, again, with my faith-based background that I go to, and Believe and Speak is based on that. So I read a little tiny bit of scripture, I pull a declaration of truth out of that scripture, and then I have us repeat it. And it's meant to make us believe the truth about not only who we are, but about who God says we are. And so that no matter what anybody says, because we don't find our value in what other people say. I once heard, I think it was, if we don't live by another man's praise, we won't die by another man's criticism.
Yeah, that's good. And Shawna, I love that. Do a lot of mentoring with young women. And I swear over and over again, I see the same thing, and this is another reason why I wanted to get my master's in psychology. But I also know that you can't get too caught up in it, because then you got to go back to the truth. And what I see as a common theme for young women that are struggling, whether it be in relationships or just trying to understand where they're supposed to go and what they're supposed to do, is a major identity crisis. And that is what I'm seeing. And so when you say that, I really love to hear that, because I'm always encouraging people to really get down to the truth of who you are and take the lies that have been spoken over you, or the lies that you've spoken over yourself, and replace it with the truth. And I go back to that constantly myself, because I come from a household who my parents did not know that they were speaking death over their children. And especially my brothers, where, my dad would say things like, "You're stupid, you're good for nothing." Like, we watched those on after school specials, if that's aging me, if they do those anymore. But you know what I mean, of these stories. But for many people, like people in my culture, that's reality. And there were pretty bad things that were said over you. And our parents did not know what they were doing. They just knew they were upset. You were a kid, you did something stupid, and that was it. So love, love, love that you said that.
I think, Jessica, too, like I think that's more common than people think in a lot of cultures. Like, I'm truth to what you said. Like, I grew up in the Midwest in like a, probably, I guess I would call it like a middle class family. You probably wouldn't expect this, corn fed Iowa girl to like have experienced those type of things too. But like,
Yeah.
I think it's a little more common than you think. And I think that, sometimes I had a life coach tell me one time, when someone tells you something that's negative, sometimes it's coming out sideways. It's like really not for you. Like, it's just coming out that way. And, like you said, the words, that does have so much impact. Longing to belong. Like, where did that come from? Where did the desire to write that book and have that be the title and have that be the content?
So I was in a pretty large church for many, many years and was on the teaching team at that church. And it was experiencing some growth, and they didn't have room for all the women signing up for Bible study. So the women's director came to me and she said, Shawna, if you could just teach a niche topic, something that will peel a few women away that can sign up for your class, then I don't have to turn women away. And she said, I trust you to just, however long, 8, 10 weeks, whatever you want to do, just teach a class for me. And so I was like, oh my goodness. So I went to prayer and I heard the word rejection. And I was like, oh, no, 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 no. I'm not teaching on rejection. I can just see that. Everybody sign up for a class on rejection. Nobody's going to sign up and then I'm going to feel rejected, obviously. So I said, not going to do it. But, you can't argue with God for very long. And so I finally said, okay, if I'm going to teach this class on rejection, it needs to be Bible based. I need context. I need chapter verse. What am I going to teach on? And so I just felt in my spirit that if everybody believed every single word of Psalm 139, they would never feel rejected or unloved or unwanted. They would know how absolutely precious they are. And that God created them with purpose. So of course I'm familiar with the Psalm, but I pulled it out. It's 24 verses long. And I thought, this is a whole lot to memorize. But I was able to boil it down into a 7-line manifesto. So basically, in 7 sentences, the 24 verses in Psalm 139 are: God knows me. He's always with me. I am not invisible. I am wonderfully made. God's countless thoughts are for me. I have enemies, but I can walk in victory. And so I put that class together and I taught it, and it was so well received. They asked me to teach it again. And then the women in the class were like, Shawna, you have got to write a book. This is so good. You have to write a book about this. And so just again, through a series of wonderful events, I was able to meet at a writer's conference with a publisher that signed me and published my book. And they always tell you not to be married to your working title. When you're self-published, that's a different thing. Although, Jessica, we're learning through Brand Builders Group how important the title is and all the tests for a good title. But I had been working with Longing to Belong, discovering the joy of acceptance, because I know that people talk about self-confidence. Maybe we can get into that. It's not about confidence, because confidence is performance-based, right? People talk about fitting in, but fitting in isn't belonging. It's actually masking maybe who you really are. So you'll be accepted in places where maybe you really wouldn't be. And so I wanted this sense of belonging. It is a longing that we have. And lo and behold, the publisher said, we like your title. We're going to go with it.
I love that. And Shawna, so when you think about being an expert in this area, I know for me, a lot of things that I feel like I'm an expert in, it's because there are things that I've struggled with myself. Can you share any of your teaching, your book, any of this where there was a point in your life that you felt you really struggled in this area, and how has that really helped you be able to share those lessons?
Well, I mentioned that I grew up in a wonderfully healthy family. I joke with my husband about how I married into dysfunction, but I said, it's okay, honey, because you put the fun in dysfunction. So
There's a silver lining someplace.
absolutely. And so I actually, believe it or not, was rejected by my own daughter. And it's funny that we were talking about an icebreaker question before we started rolling the tape for the show. And it was, what was it? Something that's true, but what was the prompt, you guys?
It was an unpopular opinion.
Yes, an unpopular opinion. And mine is, it's okay for your children to hate you. It's okay for you not to be their friend. And so, but I really struggled with that. And now we are. I mean, for heaven's sakes, she lives. In fact, I had to tell her, I'm shooting a podcast at 4:30, so don't come barging in the door and say what's for dinner or anything like that. So we're we're doing great now, but it was painful to have your own child say, I hate you. I don't want to live with you. And it's because she had some behavior issues that needed to be dealt with, and they needed a strong hand. And it wasn't easy.
Wow. Jamie wants to speak on that. I think we all, and so I have raised 3 boys. I'm sorry, 2 so far. The other one's pretty young, and we talk about this a lot. And Corlin's is young, and she has 1. But I think that is something that, and then you say to yourself, like, what the heck did I do wrong? Now I figured out a ton of things that I did wrong, but when you do come from a good family, and I'm sure you represented that in your own family as you had children too. So it's like struggling with that. How did you get out of it? Was it you get to a point where you're like, okay, that's a you thing, and that's between you and God to
Yeah.
deal with. I have to just wait until, because it's not a me thing.
Right. It's funny that you bring that up, because my first book is on, overcoming rejection and discovering the joy of acceptance and knowing your identity. And it's not based on what other people say or think or do. The book that I'm working on.
What's that called?
That Longing to Belong. That's my book right now.
Oh, wait,
yeah.
that's the first. Oh, that's
yes.
the same
But what
book.
I was going to say, so my second book. Yes. Okay. My first book. Well, my first traditionally published book. I do have other books that I self-published, but I don't think. Yeah. But I'm saying I'm working on my second book right now. That one, Jessica, to your point, is on boundaries. And because, oh my goodness, when you have to realize that, you know what, that is your problem. That's not my problem. I'm not going to make that my problem. And that's hard too. Oh my goodness, especially when it's your child.
Yeah. And I had to get to that. And I'm working through, I have a sister who I'm helping her with that as well, because she carries that burden. And it's like, I learned the hard way that we're called to be obedient in certain areas, but once we are, the result is not on us.
Amen.
I'm not responsible for the result.
Mm-mm.
So that's good. Thank you.
I always say, this is my little saying, God is responsible for the consequences of my obedience.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to write that one down.
Well, that's a good clip.
I kind of think, as I've been listening to everyone talk, I just keep popping back into, my own childhood. I feel like when I was little, I remember specifically being in kindergarten. When something happens and it's just a core memory that you will always remember. And I remember having this friend of mine that we were doing schoolwork together, and I had a teacher come up to me, and we were playing this game where she would write something and I would write something, and we would do kind of copy each other. And this teacher came up to me and had just called me out of the blue and just said, why do you keep copying her? And a little bit of I don't know why I remember this, but it was like one of those things, I felt like I was not a part of the group. Like, for whatever reason, my teacher had set me aside and said that I didn't belong with this other group of kids, or whatever the case may be. But I've always remembered this particular story. And always from that point on through kindergarten, when I was 5 years old, remembering that I was always trying to search for this teacher's acceptance, trying to go above and beyond. Well, look what I did, and look what I did to kind of make up for that. And it's interesting to me how we can have those circumstances in our lives. And coming from the parent now, that I wonder, how many times has this already happened to my little boy, or how many times have I just given him all this ample stock for therapy down the future from different choices because I've said or done something different. But I guess what I'm saying, what I keep thinking, I come back to, is in your research and in your expertise, why is belonging so important? Why do we, as people in general, women specifically, why do we keep chasing after this acceptance?
Well, we were created to be in community. I mean, God said when he created Adam, it's not good for man to be alone. We're definitely created to be in community. And so we need that. We crave that. We want that relationship. And like I said, if we're in the wrong, I was just reminded of a story. I was just telling my daughter this the other day. We were laughing about it. I can't remember if it was somebody we knew, but it was right before Thanksgiving, and they were breaking the kids up into 2 groups. Everybody that wants to be a Native American, an Indian, stand over on this side of the room, and everybody that wants to be a pilgrim, that came over on the Mayflower, go stand on this side of the room, because they were going to put on their costumes and do the whole thing. And this one little girl goes up to the teacher and tugs, "Where did the mermaids stand?"
No.
And it was like, isn't that wonderful? She was like, And in that moment, the teacher is challenged because, like you said, Corlin, to your point, there are these beliefs that are formed very young and last with us a very long time. And so he had to find a way for her to, feel like she was welcomed as a mermaid over there with the pilgrims, because they came on a boat and you kind of tagged along. And so it's built into us to be in community. We want to belong. And the hard thing is if we mask our true identity, if we try to be something that we're not, I think one of the biggest about trying to fit in is we end up feeling more alone. We end up feeling more loneliness because we're trying to force that mermaid, into a pilgrim, and it doesn't work.
That's what I wanted to ask you to keep talking about. That is, what are some of the themes and some of the things that keep coming up when you talk to women that struggle with whether or not they belong or trying to chase after acceptance, who need some truth spoken into their life? What are some of the themes that you see recurring when they're talking through some of these challenges?
That was my question too, Corlin. I'm glad you brought that up. I'm like, what are people asking for?
Yeah, well, so much of it is the limiting beliefs. And I think right when you said that, I think of two women that went through the class with me. One of them, actually, no, both of them went through it twice. That's so funny. They both went through it twice. Oh, I need this. She said, I need this again. One of them had had such a painful, and when I mean painful, I don't just mean emotionally, physically as well, divorce, that she had a restraining order, but she felt worthless. Her husband had convinced her that she was worthless. And so she had a master's degree, you guys, but she was on public assistance because she couldn't get a job. And when she went through my class and she learned the power of speaking positive affirmations, even if it's the 7 that I told you earlier that are in the declaration that I teach in my book, she had them on little Post-it notes around her computer when she did her job interviews halfway through the second time through my class. And she ended up getting 3 job offers, and she was able to choose the one she wanted. Because whenever those old limiting beliefs came to her mind, she would say, nope, this is true about me. This is true. This is true. And so we can't always do anything about the things we hear. People are going to say what they're going to say. Haters going to hate, right? Even those tapes that are in us because of something our parents said to us in ignorance, I'm stupid, it's going to be there. So we can't really control what we hear, but we can control what we choose to listen to. And so I'm always telling them, think about what you're thinking about. Stop right now. What are you thinking in that job interview? What are you thinking right now? And is that true? What is true? And then the other woman that I thought of, she was telling me about, she also had gone through a really messy kind of pulling away from everything, family, church, job, everything. And she was in the grocery store and she saw these 2 women from her church come around the end of the aisle. And as soon as they saw her, they turned around with their shopping cart and went the other way. And she said, right then, it all started to come, all the voices that come. And she said, no. And she said, God knows me. He's always with me. I am not invisible. I am wonderfully made. She just started declaring those. And her whole mood.
Was she actually chasing down the shopping cart lady? Hey guys,
this is what's true about me. You listen to me.
Let me tell you what's happening.
That's right.
That's the visual that I had. Hopefully that's how it played out.
Choosing very carefully what we're going to ruminate on.
Another theme that I picked up off of looking through your media kit and your website is this whole idea of purpose and calling and giving yourself grace to almost begin again. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? I'm huge advocate of, it's never too late to have a first day at something, try something new, be green and growing. We talk about that a lot. It's one of my favorite things, but from your perspective, what does that mean for you?
I had 2 thoughts as you were asking me. And the first one was, I had talked a little bit about my daughter, and I just love the fact that she has no regrets. I wonder if I had made some of the choices she had made growing up, if I could be as free as she is, and she's just okay with everything. And so part of it sounds so simple, but it's not easy at all, is letting go. You have to let go. Again, in the Bible, it says God's mercies are new every morning. I remember I would wake up sometimes when my daughter was little and driving me crazy, and I'd say, "Oh God, I need some of those new mercies for today." And so just trying to start each day fresh. And it is a mindset, it's an intention, and it's hard work. And then the other thought that I had is probably has something to do with the fact that I just had my birthday last week and I'm another year older, and it completely slipped my mind.
Happy birthday.
Yeah,
So
happy birthday.
thank you. And maybe if you ask your question again, I'll remember. Beginning again, that's what it was. Okay, so I actually picked up a little 3x5 card and I wrote this down because I just kept thinking about it. What if I could face the future with all of the wisdom of my years and all of the expectations of my youth? It was like, that is the key right there.
Would
And I
that
was
just be
reminded of
amazing?
that great movie. I don't know if you ever saw Angels in the Outfield, where those two little boys were living in foster care and they just dreamed of having a family. And one of them just kept saying, it could happen, it could happen. But the other was so cynical because he'd been so hurt. It could happen. What if we could face the future with all the wisdom of our years and all the expectations of our youth?
Love it.
I love that. I love that so much. You guys are, you're so, your willingness to share like a lot of the hard, you share a lot of the funny stuff, of course, but you share like a lot of hard stuff too when we do these podcasts. And I'm so appreciative of that because sometimes I can relate with a few things that maybe you don't even know about me or maybe people that I know, but I appreciate it. It's very encouraging. It's very appreciated. You guys share a lot. You share your stories, you share hard stuff. And Shawna, I want to extend that to you as well. There are things that you share that, that you've shared today that I'm a note taker, so you haven't noticed, but just things that, things you've said and little snippets of phrases that you've said that I want to put on my own 3x5 card or my own Post-it notes to just keep reminding myself. Because I think if we don't speak to ourselves in a way that we would, how do I want to say this? I want to speak to others that way. I want to put joy into other people's lives, and I want to put some encouragement into other people's lives. So we have to kind of do that to ourselves as well. And just a simple act of writing that down and putting it in front of our faces where we can read it is like a super simple step. So I guess I just want to thank you for that.
Yeah, I think sometimes we forget that sometimes it's the easy, practical things that we're not thinking about or things that we know that we just need. And this is what she said, words matter. It does for many reasons. And the words that are death matter, and the words that are life also matter. And the other thing I love about words is sometimes it's just like this musical that the right things are put together. And that's, I think, what Jamie's experience is like, the right words at the right time put in front of you is a gift. And that's why I even just love doing this, because sometimes I have a hard week, and whether it's a guest or us just getting on this call together and kind of talking through it, I leave here with a new perspective on whatever it is that I didn't come with. So it is truly a gift. It was a gift having you here today, and I really appreciate that. And I appreciate these girls for their commitment of serving the Lead Like a Girl audience every week, because we don't miss an episode, Shawna. So we're
Good for you.
We're committed.
One thing that I would add to this conversation that I literally just thought of, but in the whole realm of listening to people who speak truth, but sometimes speak death over your life. This is just a day of me remembering my youth, but I had somebody in my life when I was really young. I was singing something on the radio or something like that, and somebody sort of had made the comment like, "Oh my gosh, your voice is horrible," and I got really embarrassed. And I kid you not, it took me. I'd never sang out loud, probably really. That anybody could hear me from that moment on. Like, I just did not do it. I was really embarrassed. I didn't think that I had a good singing voice at all. And the power of having somebody in your life to retrain and reprogram your brain. It wasn't until I got married and we were in church and I was singing like super quiet though. Like you'd have to be like sitting on my lap to hear me sing. And at some point my husband said, I wish you would sing louder. I love listening to you when you sing. And I just looked at him and I just had this like flashback because it wasn't even a conscious thought that I had that I didn't sing. I just had decided that I just wasn't a good singer, but it took my husband, and that wasn't like he told it to me again, and he's told it to me many times after that. Like, I love listening to you sing. And so I think sometimes you can have that moment in your life as a youth that impacts you in a way, but one, don't let it permanently change you. Like, I think of all the times that I missed out of just singing with my gifted voice of
Just
whatever.
Get out there.
Just get out there. How many times you miss out on opportunities because somebody said something that they probably don't even remember that they said. But then also when other people say something about you that counteracts that negative that you heard, like, be open-minded and listen to them because because it's one person, but also being able to surround yourself with people who can speak truth and light and love. It can change your trajectory and change your opinion about yourself as well. And I feel like that, like, this conversation, I haven't thought about this moment for a long time, but it made me think of that. And I'm sure a lot of us and a lot of listeners probably have had those aha moments where, man, I wish I would have unlearned that negative self-talk or that horrible truth that I was believing for a long time about myself. And I wish I would have done it faster or differently. Shawna, I want to give you a little bit. So if one, where can our listeners find your book? And then also, if you were to give us the top like 3 things, like if you read this book, you will know how to X, fill in the blank. Okay. Give us your best 30-second commercial on why we should all read this book.
Okay, well, my website, ShawnaMarieBryant.com, talks about not just the book, but I'm offering a course that you can go through with me to walk through it, like I did with these ladies in person. Now I'm doing online. And the one that is happening right now is closed, but I'm going to be offering them again, so stay tuned. The book is available on Amazon, so if you just search for Longing to Belong, you probably have to put in my name as well, Shawna Bryant, because I think there might be another book by that title. And I would say that the main takeaways from that book are so much of the things that we've already talked about, that our words have power and we need to start thinking about what we're thinking about. And so this book will give you tools. I tell a lot of stories. I know you guys are storytellers too, to show how it happened in my life this way. And I learned this from that. I actually walk people through forgiveness, because when you remember those painful words, those limiting beliefs, the source of them, and sometimes there can be some bitterness there that you need to work through. So I just say that it's a wonderful walk through a psalm that shows how loved and how special you are. In fact, you know how clubs have secret signals. I just love this. I'm like, I have to have a secret signal. I said, we're the I'm Special Sisterhood. And not an I'm special and then everybody gets a trophy just because they showed up kind of way, but an I'm special because God created me with a purpose that only I can fulfill. And so I said, American Sign Language, well, I wonder what that looks like. And when you say I'm special, I just love this, you guys. You point to yourself, I'm, and then special, you go like this. I'm special. And I'm like, okay, here's little me, little stick figure me. And here's the creator who made me with purpose, saying, you were made for more. I just love that.
I love it.
I love that.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much, Shawna.
Thank you. Yep, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. You can follow Shawna. I'm sure you're on all of your socials. Do you want to give us your Instagram or your YouTube? Would it just be Shawna Marie Bryant?
Well, you can find me Shawna Marie Bryant on Instagram. That's at Shawna Marie Bryant. No surprise, my YouTube channel is Begin Again, at Begin Again God, but Shawna Marie Bryant will get you there as well.
Fantastic. Well, read her book, get her book on Amazon, Longing to Belong. And also don't forget, listen to her podcast, Believe and Speak podcast. I feel like that is an affirmation that we all need to hear from time to time. And then us, if anything that we've shared or talked about today has resonated with you, please give us this episode a like, share, or subscribe on whatever medium that you're listening to us, whether it's Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or if it's through YouTube, just we'd love to increase our followership and through any kind of ways that you'd like to share with us. So again, we're empowering everyday women through our stories, all the good, the bad, and the funny. Thank you for all of the comments and everything to support us, and we'll see you again next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.